All right. So we're going to look at number 3. Negative 9x, and they put it in parentheses. If you look at your book, it's in parentheses. I'm not going to put it in parentheses because I'll just be honest with you. Sometimes the biggest thing in math that can help you is writing something in the way that looks familiar to you. And remember when we did distributing, we had a number out front and then all that stuff in parentheses after it? And so our brains already have done a little distributing, and they're looking for a number out front. When you put the parentheses around it, let me go ahead and do it. It looks a little more confusing to me. Does it to you? So I just don't write them. If I see a book's doing that, I just don't write them down. Most books wouldn't have done this, but, you know, this is what it is. Okay, so now here's what we got to do. We got to say negative 9. We got to multiply it by every single term. And remember, a term is separated by these plus signs or minus signs that you see. That's what separates one term from the next term. Like negative 3x squared, that's all one term. It's just stuff multiplied together. So you don't look at like negative 3x squared as two terms because there's a number and there's an x on it. It's all one big blobby term, okay? So we're going to multiply negative 9x times negative 3x squared. Let's do the signs first. What's a negative times a negative? A positive. I'm not going to write it down since it's positive. What's 9 times 3? Okay, so now I'm doing the numbers. I did the signs and I'm doing the numbers. Now I'm going to do the x's. There's like little parts to each one of these. X to the 1. I'm going to put the 1 on there because when I multiply x1 times x squared, what am I going to do to get the answer? Add the exponents. So that would be x to the 1 plus 2, which is 27x cubed, okay? 1 plus 2 is 3. Remember, we add the exponents. So there's all kinds of little rules here. Your negative rules, your plain old multiplied numbers, and then when on variables, you add exponents when you multiply. So it helps to put that 1 in just to kind of help you remember that, oh yeah, I got to count that one too. I'm going to do color so that you can see. Now I'm going to multiply negative 9x times 9x. And that's a positive 9x, isn't it? A negative times a positive is a... Two different signs make a negative, right? Okay. So I'm going to put a negative down. Now I'm going to do my numbers. I already did the signs, so I'm breaking it up into signs. Then I'm doing the numbers. Then I'm doing the x's, or the variables. 9 times 9 is 81. And x1 times x1, I add those two ones, and I get x squared. 1 plus 1 is x squared. I'm just go ahead and simplify it as I go so that y'all can see. I'm just writing the rule in there in case you have a hard time remembering it. Now I got one more term. Negative 9x times a positive 11. Let's do the signs first. A negative times a positive is a negative. 9 times 11 is 99. And then I got an x here, but I don't have any more x's, so it's just x. There's my result right there. Next week what we're going to do is we'll start with this thing on the bottom and we'll go backwards to get what they had up at the top. So we'll be we're multiplying stuff out now to get an answer. Later we'll divide the thing. That negative 9x is what we would call the GCF. I don't know if y'all remember doing this already. And the stuff in the parentheses is usually called your leftovers. So if I took this result that I have here that I circled and I factored it, I would be breaking it up into what you see up at the top. Okay, so the problem on number 20 is 1/3 x times, and again, notice when I wrote it down, I did not put the parentheses on it. So notice little things like that can help your brain kind of stay on track. How many terms are there in this expression in the parentheses? 4. Okay, so I got to multiply about 1/3 x times each one of it. So it's going to be 4 times, and I'm multiplying that 1/3 x. So let me just choose some different colors. Okay, so 1/3 x times 6x squared. When I multiply by 1/3, isn't that the same thing as dividing by 3? Wouldn't it be easier to think about divide by 3 here? Wouldn't that make it easier? Because what's 6 divided by 3? 2. Now my x's, I have 1 up front and I have 2 in, with that first term. So how many will I have total? 1 plus 2 makes 3, okay?
When you divide them, you still add the exponents?
Well, remember, a third times 6, I'm just breaking it out into parts. First of all, it was both positive numbers, so I didn't even have to worry.
Oh, we're not. Oh, sorry. I was thinking that we were dividing.
Well, I did say divide because I was thinking a third times 6. Well, it's easier for me to think of that. Multiplying by a third is the same thing as dividing by 3. So it's easier for me to think 6 divided by 3 is 2. So I changed that multiplication into a division problem because I know that multiplying by a third is dividing by 3, right?
Yeah, I understand that.
But then the exponents on the x's stay. That's a different rule. So you got all these different rules, don't you? With each time we multiply, we got different rules we got to remember. Okay, so let's go do the second term. A third x times negative 12xy. Let's do our signs first, because remember what I was doing was signs, then numbers, and then I was doing the variables. Okay, positive times negative is a negative. Two different ones make a negative, don't they? That dot shouldn't be there, but oh well. Now, I could say 1/3 times 12, but multiplying by a third is the same thing as dividing by 3, so what's 12 divided by 3? Doesn't that make it easier to think that way? Okay. Now, on my x's, I have one x out front. I have another x here. So I would have x to the 1 plus 1, which would be x squared. And then there's this y in there that we even got a different one. I'll just write it down because there's no y's out front to add it to. Now, let's go do the third term. 1/3 x times negative 9y squared. Let's do it in little pieces. We got a positive times a negative, so that will be a negative, right? Negative. Two different ones make a negative. Now, I could say 1/3 times 9, or I could think of it as 9 divided by 3. What's 9 divided by 3? 3. I have an x here, but no x's on the other term, so I'll just write my 1x down. And then this one has y squared on it, so I'll just write it down since I can't combine it with anything else out front. Now the fourth term. Okay, so fourth term. 1/3 x times 3y squared. Yeah, it'd be xy squared because, first of all, positive times positive is a positive. I write down the plus, right? Correct? 1/3 times 3 is 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. And then, just like Sierra said, all you end up with is that x, and then this one had y squared, so we'll write y squared down. And we're finally done. Number 8, I would come off to the side and do the work. We'll do that one together. 2/3 b times 12b minus 9. Okay. So I've got two terms on the inside. That means I'm going to be multiplying twice. So 2/3 b times 12b. Positive times positive is positive. Since it's the first term, we call that the leading term. We don't put a plus out there if it's the first term. Now, 2/3 times 12. Maybe I want to come over here to the side and say 2/3 times 12. Let me put 12 over 1, and let's just reduce it. 3 goes into 3 one time, and 3 goes into 12 4 times. Now, if you remember, when we multiply fractions, we just multiply straight across the top. 2 times 4 is 8. And then across the bottom, we just have 1 times 1 is 1. 8 over 1 is just 8. So you may need to go off to the side to do some figuring, out of the fractions. Wouldn't that be 8? And how many b's would I have there? What would I write for my b term? B squared, right? Good. Okay, so now let's look at the other one is 2/3 b times negative 9. So a positive term out front times a negative 9 would be a negative, right? Two different ones make a negative. 2/3 of 9, so I'm going to come over here. 2/3 times 9. I'm going to put 9 over 1. And I'm going to go, let's reduce first. Well, I could multiply and reduce later. I just like smaller numbers, so I reduce first. 3 goes into 3 once, and 3 goes into 9 3 times. 2 times 3 is 6, and 1 times 1 is 1. 6 over 1 is just 6, right? All right, so we've done the signs, we've done the numbers, now we do the variables. B, got one B here, no B's over here, so I just write the B down. and I'm done.